Season number 2 of the Las Vegas High Rollers MyNBA franchise here on NBA 2K26 is now in the books. And today we will make it up to the NBA draft. We will go through the playoffs. We will start the offseason. And of course, that includes the NBA draft lottery, a very pivotal one across the league. And thus we will preview the draft knowing where our first round pick will ultimately be. This is a very talented draft class. I think it's better at the top than last year's crop, which means how teams stack up in the lottery matters a lot more than a year ago. I've been trying to upload this scenario so you guys can eventually download the draft class. For whatever reason, it just doesn't work. I've been having a lot of issues over the last couple of days with this scenario, so I don't know if it's just me or if it's an everyone problem, but hopefully it'll work by the time we get to Wednesday and the actual draft episode. Otherwise, that would be kind of unfortunate because I know everyone is excited to use the draft class, and I'm excited for all of you guys to get an opportunity to use these players, but for whatever reason, 2K is hating. Nonetheless, in a draft class that features guys like Marquis Cannon and DeMarco Jefferson and Lando Nazario, I think all of whom would have been the number one pick last year, the lottery matters that much more because there are a couple players with franchise-altering upside at the top of this draft. We had the 6th best odds. We ended up with the 6th overall pick last year. We lost our last 9 games. We kind of tanked the last 2 weeks of the year, but we didn't tank throughout the duration of the year, unlike many of the teams here towards the bottom of the standings. And that has posed the question throughout the year of, is it smart to ethically tank like us and try to win all year? Or is it more beneficial to actually intentionally lose games? Because while it's nice to not win 14 games, we are hurting our lottery odds and thus may lose out on the opportunity to add a franchise-altering player at the top of this draft class. We'll go back to the draft a little bit later today, but first, we need to crown an NBA champion. The Houston Rockets, number 1 seed in the West, 64-18. The West is going to be a total bloodbath. Houston, though, will be without Giannis Antetokounmpo for the start of the playoffs, who they acquired this year at the trade deadline. A lot of injuries throughout the league. He's dealing with a foot injury and will probably miss the first round or two. The Spurs are without Zion Williamson, who tore his ACL. He is done for the year. So the top 2 seeds in the West, who look like the 2 best teams in the NBA, both missing key pieces. The Thunder are a little dinged up, but they're getting healthy quick. Who would have thought the 3 old teams, the Clippers, the Mavericks, and the Warriors, are the healthy ones? But the Clippers go into the playoffs with possibly the last true hurrah for James Harden and Kawhi Leonard. The Warriors, with Steph Curry likely retiring at the end of the year, probably his last opportunity at a championship. And then the Mavericks as well, with Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis, and of course, LeBron James. This is certainly the last dance for James, now 42 years old, with 20-year-old Cooper Flagg. As for the Eastern Conference, certainly not as good as the West. You've got Detroit, Minnesota, Atlanta, all in the top 3. I think those are the clear 3 best teams, but they all have complementary pieces injured. Jaden Ivey, Julius Randle, and Zachary Rizashe all dinged up. Now, those injuries are certainly differing in terms of how long they will be. Rizashe, I know, will be back pretty soon. Jaden Ivey, though, will be out for the rest of the year. He broke his leg again, which is depressing. For such a good guy like Jaden Ivey, he does not deserve that in the slightest. In terms of league leaders, Cade Cunningham led the league in points, and had he played 2 more games, he would have been a lock for the All-NBA first team. Maybe would have had a chance at the MVP, which, I mean, biasly, I would have voted for him. In terms of the absolute leaders, the 3-point leader was Trey Murphy, who had 2 more than Steph Curry. Good for Trey. Wemby led the league in estimated wins added, with LeBron James in second. At 42 years old, second most valuable player in the league. How? How is that possible? He could play another 5 years if he wanted to. Of course, for us, Benedict Mathurin led the way in scoring. Mark Singleton, all-rookie second team, the only guy on our roster to play more than 70 games. And he played all 82, even though it was a very inconsistent year for the rookie. The best ability is availability. He did not miss a single game, as Ace and Newell's stats are all gone. Last episode, it said he played like 106 games. Now, apparently, he's played none. We do not have a lot of guys under contract next year, technically. Pretty much the entire team is on either player or team options. Mark Singleton and Aaron Wiggins are the only players under contract next year, but everybody other than Bryce Sensabaugh is under team control. Sensabaugh is a restricted free agent. Everybody else here has an option of some sort, which certainly makes things very fascinating. Singleton actually led the team in estimated wins added, again, largely because he played every game. Benedict Mathurin, amongst probably a couple of other guys, were certainly better, but still good to see Mark at the top of that list, while Jet Rivers is interestingly at the bottom. So let's now go through the playoffs. Let's see what happens across the NBA. In the West, Jamal Murray's dinged up, but Denver won the finals last year. They feel like the big threat in the play-in, but they've got to win twice, and then they play the Rockets. Out East, Jason Tatum's a little bit banged up. I don't think he will be available for the play-in. He could come back if the Celtics make it out, which they do. All chalk in the West. Sacramento gets 7, and then the Lakers get 8. Denver loses immediately. 39, 12, and 10 for Luka, carrying the load for the Lakers. An interesting offseason upcoming for the Grizzlies. I think there will be conversation of Ja or Jaren on the move. The Raptors get 7. Boston gets 8, even without Jason Tatum. Derek White at 28. Moses Moody at 20, only missing one shot from the field. 21, 9, and 6 on bad shooting for Paolo Banchero. Regular day in the office, I suppose, for him. And now as we look at the first-round playoff matchups, some very compelling ones in the West. OKC versus Dallas. Clippers versus Golden State. Could be James Harden and Jimmy Butler's last chance at a title. Certainly Steph Curry's last chance, presumably, with his likely retirement. In the East, I think the Knicks and Cavs could be interesting, although Evan Mobley is hurt. So we have a lot of interesting outcomes up to this point, including 3 Game 7s. Detroit has been taken to the brink by Boston. They will play against either the Knicks or the Cavs. The Hawks lose in 5 to the Heat. 7 of 35 in their final game from deep, while Khalil Ware hit 29 and 15. Look at Miami upsetting Atlanta and doing it in dominant fashion. They got the 6th seed by only 1 game. They'll play Minnesota. In the West, the Rockets and Spurs take care of business, while Dallas with LeBron beats OKC in 6. Big Game 7 here with the Warriors and Clippers. I kind of wanted to simcast it given that, this could be it for a lot of NBA legends, and it is the Warriors who get the win. Kawhi banged up. Harden was great, but everybody else did not do enough. 25 for Steph, his season, and I guess thus his career goes on. In terms of injuries, though, they are without Jaylen Brown the rest of the way. Broken leg, that is a big loss. As for the East, the Pistons lose. You've got to be kidding me. Boston knocks out Detroit despite Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren's best efforts. Jason Tatum back in action, 42, 10, and 9. Goodness gracious. So some chaos in the East. Detroit's out. Atlanta's out. The door is wide open, presumably for Minnesota to get back to the finals. They made it last year. They have an open pathway in the East, you would think. Let's simulate here through the second round. And in the West, 2 sweeps. Houston and Golden State. In the East, chaos. We've got Miami and Boston. 42 wins versus 41. The Timberwolves, I thought, had a cakewalk to the finals, but they lose in 6 to the Cinderella Heat. They've got a good thing going with Scoot Henderson. Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo have been impressive throughout the playoffs, and Rob Dillingham shoots them out of the game. And then the Celtics and the Knicks. Boston, the 8 seed, wins in 6. So as we go into the conference finals, we'll see if Jason Tatum can lead the Celtics to glory, or if it'll be Eric Spoelstra's best work yet with the Heat. Houston has not lost a game yet in the playoffs. They're getting Giannis back here against Golden State, and it's not looking good for Steph and company. They're down 3-0, and they get swept. Still perfection here in the playoffs for the Rockets. In the East, the Heat lead at 3-1 over Boston, but they win Game 5 and 6. Uh-oh, we're headed to a Game 7. The Heat looking to avoid blowing a 3-1 lead, and it looks like they will. A Miami-Houston final. 19 for Hero and Powell, along with the rookie Osiris Buckley. The X Factor was the former roller Jose Alvarado, 15 points on 3 of 4 shooting from deep. Tatum did what he could. Grady Dick had 24. The rookie Jalen Wicks with 12. Derek White got injured pretty early in the game. Amen Thompson and Scoot Henderson win the conference finals MVPs. That is certainly interesting. Not who I would have expected. It is firmly David versus Goliath in the finals. The Rockets were the best team in the NBA by record, and they have not lost a single game in the postseason. Giannis is healthy, but Kevin Durant and Alperen Şengün are nursing some small stuff. They both should be available pretty early in the finals, though. For the Heat, I do not have as good of news. They have lost major front court pieces, Bam Adebayo and Khalil Ware. Adebayo's done. He broke his leg. Ware strained his MCL. He could theoretically play through it, but it would be kind of ugly. So the Rockets are getting healthier with KD and Şengün back soon. The Heat, meanwhile, are going to have to depend on a rookie, Osiris Buckley. So the Rockets win Game 1. Giannis with 28, 10, and 9. Reed Shepherd, who's supposed to be their floor spacer, shot 1 of 10, and they still won by 40. With KD and Şengün out, the spacing on this team must be horrible, but it doesn't matter. Peyton Pritchard, 26. Giannis, 24. Durant is back. He didn't even play all that well. Shout out Osiris Buckley. He's been productive, but it's probably not going to be enough. The Rockets lead 3-0. Buckley leads Miami in scoring, but Durant and Giannis at 28. Giannis filling up the stat sheet. Good game for Thompson. Şengün, 15, 9, and 8 with no turnovers. He's back in action as well. So now the Rockets look to complete history. They are 15-0. Even with all the injuries they've dealt with. They've barely been fully healthy, but they are now. This feels like the peak of their powers, and they are not going to let the Heat get away from them. A very anticlimactic end of the year. We had some exciting early matchups. Clippers, Warriors, Pistons, Celtics. But after the first round, it wasn't really very competitive. The Rockets steamrolling through everybody as they win the 2027 NBA Finals, sweeping the Miami Heat. Give Miami credit. I certainly didn't think they'd get here. I certainly did not think they would beat both Atlanta and Minnesota in the playoffs. But this Rockets team is too much. Another ring for Kevin Durant. Another ring for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Alperen Şengün and Amen Thompson are now NBA champions. What does this do for the legacy of those top two guys? For Giannis, he was the number one option on another championship team. Now, this isn't really fully his squad. He came here in February via trade, and obviously it proved to be a very good decision by the Rockets, and he's been their best player since then. But it also doesn't fully feel like his team. Is it Kevin Durant's team? I mean, he kind of got his 1A role snatched by Giannis. Durant now has 3 titles, which probably puts him in the top 10 conversation of all-time players. And at this point, Giannis might be there as well. But for KD, though, he's been a Robin on all those titles with Steph. And now Giannis, as Reed Shepherd holds the championship trophy. The Finals MVP, unsurprisingly, will go to Giannis Antetokounmpo. I was kind of hoping it would be Peyton Pritchard. He had some really good games. He might have been the second choice. Look at Amen Thompson. He's wondering why the employee is holding the trophy. I would be wondering that too. And then Thompson just won the finals. Why doesn't he get to hold it? Why is it the employee? Nonetheless, Houston, your NBA champions here in season number 2. They are the standard. 64 wins in the regular season, 16-0 in the playoffs. That's the mark that we and the other 31 teams are trying to get to. Şengün, 26, 8, and 6. He was unbelievable in the 2 finals games he played in. Giannis, 22. Pritchard, 18 and 11. Durant, 16. This team is so deep. They're so balanced. And obviously, they had the star power. Scoot with 21. Powell with 19. Buckley with 17 and 6. The moment did not faze the rookie from UConn, Osiris Buckley. As we take a look at some of the stats through the rest of the finals. Again, Giannis wins the MVP, deservedly so. But Alperen Şengün's numbers were absurd, as were Peyton Pritchard's. Pritchard shot the ball so well from all levels of the floor. Şengün was great. Durant and Thompson, of course, very solid as well. I'm curious to see if the Rockets run it back. I mean, Durant's almost been in the league 20 years, so that's got to become a topic of conversation. Does he want to retire on top? Give credit to Miami, though, an impressive playoff run. I don't know why their games played are completely wrong, but I believe the stats are correct. Bradley Beal led them in scoring. Yes, a Bradley Beal number 1 option team in the finals in the big 2027. The Rockets, though, are just too much. They weren't even healthy for most of the playoffs. Giannis missed 7 games. Durant missed 1. Şengün missed 3. They really were not fully healthy up until the very end, the last 2 games, where they took care of business against Miami. Şengün, 2.5 estimated wins added, even with missing some games. He ended up being their best player through the playoffs. He was awesome. So Giannis takes home the Finals MVP. That is now a 9th straight year with a new champion. Giannis takes home his 2nd Finals MVP. And now we are into the offseason. We will start with retirements. My glorious king, my Lapuki bear. LeBron James, unfortunately, is done after 24 years. He could have kept going if he wanted to. He had one of his best seasons yet at 42 years old with the Lakers and the Mavericks, but he wants to be a family man, even though his son is literally in the league. But, okay. After him, roller legend Jeff Green has retired. We picked him in the expansion draft to be our vet in year 1. We then traded him away to Miami in the same deal where they got Jose Alvarado. Paul George is done. He leaves $56 million on the table. Is he an idiot? Congratulations, Sixers. You just got awfully lucky. Draymond Green could not bear the thought of playing in the league without LeBron. there are a couple notable players missing. I know Durant thought about it. I know Harden thought about it. And then Steph Curry, not retiring. He wants one more run with the Warriors. LeBron gets his 3 jersey numbers retired. That's motion, along with Draymond Green. I'm really surprised Draymond and Paul George did not make the Hall of Fame, though. I disagree with both of those. I think both of those guys belong. As for the league meetings, draft lottery, the top 6 picks are done by a random weighted draw. I mean, that would help us because we had the 6th best odds, but no, obviously I'm not going to do that. I am going to add a player fouled in transition with a clear path to the basket will receive 2 free throws and retain possession of the ball because I think that's a good rule. All right, it's time. The NBA Draft Lottery. This might be the biggest moment of the series so far. Last year, we had the 5th odds and we dropped to 6th. This year, we hit the 6th odds in a lottery that features extremely good prospects like Marquis Cannon, DeMarco Jefferson, and Lando Nazario at the top. It's a 3-player lottery. If we end up in the top 3, I would be thrilled because that's where the money's made. All 3 of those guys are seen as Cooper Flag level prospects. Think like the real-life 2026 class with Cam Boozer, AJ DeBanza, and then, of course, my glorious knight in shining armor, Darren Peterson. The Lakers at 16, the Sixers at 15, the Magic at 14. The less movement here towards the top, the better, although there was like no movement last year until us. So maybe that's a bad omen. The Bulls get number 13 via Portland. The 12th pick will go to the Atlanta Hawks. They add another young piece to their great core. Thanks a lot, New Orleans. Freaking idiots. The 11th pick is the Philadelphia 76ers. They have 2 lottery picks, 11 and 15. The 10th pick goes to the Pacers. Milwaukee moves into the top 4. They got that pick from Houston in the Giannis trade. Looks like everybody won that. The Pelicans get number 9. Okay, this could be us right here at 8. If Milwaukee jumps into the top 4 again, then we would get the 8th pick. Luckily, that does not happen. Milwaukee stays at 8. So now this is the moment of truth. Our current slot is number 7. Either we are picking here, or we have leapfrogged into the top 4. The Rollers are moving up. It's Charlotte. We are in the top 4. That is huge. Wow. That certainly changes things. The Bulls get number 6. Which tanking team ends up getting screwed? Number 5 goes to the Jazz. All right, here we go. We are in the top 4. Let's see what happens. May the lottery gods be in our favor. Number 4 is Milwaukee. We're in the top 3. In a 3-player draft, we are in the top 3. But let's keep it rolling. Number 3 goes to the Washington Wizards. Hold on, we're in the top 2. It's us and the Sonics, the 2 expansion teams. Who would have thought the number 2 pick goes to the Sonics? We have won the draft lottery. Oh my God, the Rollers had the number 1 pick. I don't believe it. 7.5% chance for a miracle. And we got it. The Las Vegas High Rollers had the number 1 pick in one of the most top-heavy, talented draft classes in recent memory. Whoa! This completely changes everything for the course of this franchise. And we have an opportunity to potentially add a franchise-altering player or make a franchise-altering move with the number 1 pick. I certainly did not go into the offseason anticipating that this would happen. But here we are. It's been a long time since I've had a number 1 pick on this channel. Buzz Wigginton over 4 years ago was the last one. But now we had one in the Brown series a couple weeks ago. And then we get one here. So with that, the Las Vegas High Rollers are on the clock with the number 1 pick. And that definitely changes the conversation around this draft preview. Now that we not only really have to scout these top players, but we get the choice between any of them that we want. There's also the possibility of trading this pick away, and while it is rare for the team with the number 1 pick to trade it, we have seen it before, and I think given the right offer, it's definitely something I would entertain. We officially have picks 1, 32, and then the 6th pick in the 2nd round to go along with 2 first-rounders in 2028 and 3 second-rounders, so a lot of picks at our disposal over the next couple of years. So the choice we're going to have to weigh is if we want one of these top 3 guys at number 1 overall, or maybe we choose to trade the pick away. There are certainly major pros and cons each way, although the mock drafts actually have us going in one common direction. Despite his Achilles injury, DeMarco Jefferson, the big man from Kentucky, seems to be the guy for us. At least according to the mock drafts, that is. All three of them have us staying at the number 1 pick and choosing Jefferson, who is kind of pulling away as the number 1 guy in the eyes of a lot of the scouts. However, the Achilles injury certainly makes things a little bit more trickier in terms of his evaluation. Had he been healthy going into the pre-draft process, this would be an easier decision for us, but he's not healthy. He hasn't played since January. We don't know what he's going to look like after the Achilles injury, and he might not play at all as a rookie. He probably would not be scheduled to come back until March or April, and at that point, why bother playing him the last 10 games of the year? Now, if we do choose to get Jefferson, we are getting a phenomenal big man prospect. 7'2", 260 pounds, 7'8" wingspan. He's bigger than you, he's stronger than you, and he knows it. Given his offensive dominance within 10 feet of the basket and his impressive rim protection, along with the fact that he can handle the ball a little bit, I think there are shades of prime Joel Embiid to his game. Now, he doesn't really offer anything on the perimeter, at least not yet. He's pretty useless outside of 15 feet on both ends of the floor. He doesn't really have an outside shot, and he doesn't really guard smaller players. But he's so good down low, he does not need to. He's an elite athlete, he's got elite touch around the rim, and he is such an impressive anchor defensively. In terms of what he provides down in the post, there are no questions with him. And we could create the Twin Towers with him and Mark Singleton, who of course is also a great rim protector and also a great shot blocker. In terms of pure talent, he probably is the best prospect in the draft, but the Achilles injury certainly makes things a little bit more wonky. If we're scared off by the injury, there are 2 more guys who I think are worthy of going number 1. The big question surrounding Italian wing Lando Nazario has been his weight, officially measuring in at 236 pounds, which is 10 pounds lighter than he was originally listed at. He is a freight train going to the basket. He does not move like somebody who is in the neighborhood of 240 pounds. He is light on his feet, but he is big and physical going to the basket. I really like what he provides defensively as well. He knows how to use his size and length to his advantage. Doesn't really have much of an outside game yet, but you look at someone who's dominant as a slasher, who's really impressive as a perimeter defender, and has A-grade athleticism. His combination of speed, leaping ability, lateral quickness, not easy to find, especially for somebody as big as him with a 7-foot wingspan. He's a little bit of a projection, but the tools are really exciting. And then Marquis Cannon, who is playing overseas in the NBL for the Brisbane Bullets. I think he's probably the safest of the 3 guys here with this number 1 pick, although he comes with his own questions as well, also having question marks surrounding his weight. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, at only 187 pounds, despite being 6'7". Now, he's a really good shot maker, particularly from beyond the arc, but really all 3 levels of the floor. I think he's got good feel for the game as a playmaker, and I think he's a pretty solid defender as well. I think when you look at his feel for the game, especially on offense, you're looking at a guy who has the upside to be a transcendent scorer for a team, and that's the idea of possibly choosing Cannon. Number 1, you're getting a guy who can lead the offense, you hope can be a 25-point-per-game guy in the future. The other option would be us trading away the number 1 pick, and again, it is rare, but we have seen it. 10 years ago, the Celtics moved down 2 spots from number 1 to number 3. The Sixers went up and got Markelle Fultz, while the Celtics took Jason Tatum. Worked out pretty well for them. Now, the trades in the Trade Finder kind of suck. I don't think there is a single good one in here. I mean, there are some bad deals. We would move down 6 spots and all we would get is Trey Mann, who's a cool player, but to move down from 1 to 7, that seems a little bit silly. Wait until we get to my favorite trade offer from Seattle. We could get the number 2 pick straight up for number 1. Yeah, no, I think I'm good. I would rather explore some trades on my own, and I was able to come up with the framework of a few possibilities for us. I look at the Milwaukee Bucks at number 4. Now, keep in mind, we would miss out on one of those top 3 guys. But I think we could get a lot back. They do not have much of a young core, and maybe they want to go up to number 1 and get a guy who they feel like is a transcendent talent. So we would get probably both picks 4 and 8. That gives us 2 swings on the dartboard, along with probably an additional first rounder. Unfortunately, there are not many choices. Maybe one of these picks in 2031, or possibly both of them. So number 4, number 8, 2 additional ones. That could be a possibility. Maybe we want a player. Maybe we try to get Jabari Smith. Now, I think 4, 8, and Smith probably is too much for the Bucks to give up, but something along the lines of this could potentially work. I think the Brooklyn Nets could be in play. Now, they don't pick until number 23. That would be a big drop. But they have 3 number 1 picks next year and 3 number 1 picks the following year. That would give us an army of draft picks over the next 2 seasons. They have a Wizards-Suns swap best pick. That is one of the most valuable draft picks right now in the NBA. We could get that along with their first rounder this year and 2 additional first round picks. I imagine they'd be hesitant to give up their own pick, especially if they do choose DeMarco Jefferson, who's not going to play much as a rookie. But maybe we do try to leverage that pick out of them. We probably wouldn't get much more than this, but a late first rounder this year and 2 extremely good first rounders next year, and maybe some second round picks. I think that certainly could be in play. The Philadelphia 76ers are an interesting one because they have a ton of draft picks right now. They have 3 picks in the first round this year, including 2 lottery picks at number 11 and 15 to go along with 31. They have 2 first rounders in 2028, including a Clipper pick that could end up being quite valuable. 2 in 2029, including the swap best Sixers-Clippers pick. For those of you who watched the Warriors series, you should remember that selection because we held on to it for a while, eventually trading it for Rankin Destino, who obviously was the missing piece for our title team. We also see that they have 2 first rounders in 2030, so that is 9 total over the next 4 years. So maybe we try to get picks 11 and 15 along with that Clippers-Sixer pick in 2029 and maybe an additional pick. Or we could really get crazy. Instead of going for another pick, instead maybe a player. Could we possibly get them to cough away either Jared McCain or VJ Edgecombe? I know it sounds a little bit crazy, but if you think about it, it could make sense. McCain's a good player. He's a really good scorer. But he's on the final year of his contract, and I'm not sure if the Sixers view him as a max guy. He could have elevated himself to be a 20-point-per-game guy this year, and he didn't. There's also VJ Edgecombe, who I think would be a little bit harder to get given his overall upside, given that he could be in store for a year 3 leap. He got a little better from year 1 to year 2, but maybe not as much as the Sixers would have hoped. Nonetheless, the sky still feels like the limit for Edgecombe, but again, he only has 2 years left on his contract. By doing this, the Sixers would reset the rookie contract clock. They would get a better long-term prospect than either one of McCain or Edgecombe. So I think we could consider adding one of those guys, but that would also mean we're not going to get as many picks. Maybe one of McCain or Edgecombe and 2 first-round picks total. The other options would be Seattle at number 2 and the Wizards at number 3, much like Boston trading down and getting Jason Tatum. We wouldn't get that much back, especially from Seattle, but maybe a protected first-round pick. That's certainly not nothing, given that the Sonics are not a very good team, especially if they do draft Jefferson, who's not going to play next year. And then the Wizards, kind of the same deal. We'd probably get a little bit more because we'd be moving down from number 1 to number 3. But we could get a Bucks-Portland swap best pick. That's a super valuable asset, given that the Bucks are going to be pretty bad. Maybe we try to get a player like Alex Sarr or Trey Johnson. Maybe Tyler Rose, who they drafted highly last year. I think they'd be a little more hesitant to do that. But one of Sarr or Johnson could maybe be in play. We probably wouldn't get a player and the 3rd pick. We probably would have to pick and choose, but it's all spitballing. I think some of those trades I came up with maybe would be a little bit too much in our favor, but they're just ideas, and we can play around with it once we get to the draft, and who knows, maybe we do find a deal we ultimately like. In terms of how valuable our number 1 pick is, let's go across the league. How many more assets are valuable than our top pick? Obviously, these top players are more valuable, but once you get past like 90 overall, Tatum, I would say, maybe Paolo, maybe Mitchell, Cooper Flagg, certainly Şengün and Amen Thompson, given that they just won titles. Maybe Evan Mobley. That's probably about it. Everybody else down below, our number 1 pick is more valuable then. And at this point, the guys in the mid-80s would probably require multiple additional picks for us to take on if we were to trade the number 1 pick. That's how valuable it is. Much like the 2025 draft with the Mavericks and Cooper Flag, it would take an arm and a leg for anybody to move up to that number 1 spot, and that's how much it's going to take for us, given that there are multiple really, really strong prospects in this draft. Maybe we are able to get a young player like Jared McCain or VJ Edgecombe, or maybe we get a really valuable draft pick in the future, like that Sixers-Clipper pick in 2029, the Wizards-Suns pick in 2028, or the Bucks-Blazers pick in 2028 from Washington. So let's say we do choose to trade down. Then who do we look at? There are a lot of intriguing players down the board. We'll start with Hakeem Ujale from UConn. 2 of the mock drafts actually have him going to Seattle at number 2, which would be a major surprise. I think he's talented. I think 2 is a little bit rich. I think anything after 3, he's probably in play for. He's a really good defensive prospect. Offensively, I think there is certainly some upside there. We saw what the UConn center last year, Osiris Buckley, was able to do in the playoffs as a rookie. I think Ujale is a little bit farther along right away than Buckley was as a prospect. I think Ujale has 3-point shooting upside. He's a good rim protector, good rebounder. Now, I wish he was a little bit better as a finisher for somebody who's 7'1", 250, but I think that's something he can work upon. His touch around the basket, his ability to score in contact, and if he does improve that, I think he could become one of the better centers in the NBA. Tion McCoy from Texas Tech has been a fast riser, so much so that he's being looked at in the top 5. A 6'9", shot-making Swiss Army knife. His on- and off-ball versatility is very impressive on both ends of the floor, especially offensively, given how good he is as a pure shot maker. Maybe the best in this draft, but he's not useless. Without the ball in his hands, he's a threat to space the floor, and he can get open, navigating around screens and whatnot, so I think he'll be a fit for whatever offense he ends up in. Christopher Oliva, the talented, lanky Italian forward, may have the ugliest jump shot I've ever seen, but it often goes in. He does not have one elite skill, but his feel for the game is really impressive. I think he's a really smart kid. He doesn't really have many major weaknesses, and I think if he hits his ceiling, he'll be a role player who starts on playoff teams, but maybe is never the guy. When we talked about him last, he was projected to go 4th. I kind of thought that was a bit high, but it seems like the NBA really likes him. Jeremiah Westblade from Louisville is one of the most fun guard prospects to watch in this draft. 6'2", only a 6'3" wingspan. Certainly undersized in today's NBA, but another kid who's dynamite in terms of creating his own shot. Now, given his lack of size, he's a little bit more limited off the ball. Given that he can't really drive to the basket efficiently, he's a little bit more limited off the ball. So the question is, can he become a truly elite on-ball player, or can he possibly be a little bit more valuable off the ball? And if either one of those things come true, then I think he'll be really good. But neither of those are easier said than done. Landon Nixon from Wake Forest has been a massive riser throughout the year, so much so that he has catapulted himself into the top 10. It's hard to find guys who are 6'9" and can shoot the ball like him. Now, he's a little bit of a tweener because I don't really think he's a true 4. He's a little too small to play the 5. I think there's a lot of defensive upside. He's not a good defender yet, but he's got good size and length to where I think he could get to the point where he guards multiple positions at a high level, although his lack of athleticism and foot speed does likely limit what he can do on the perimeter. Lawrence St. Pierre from Syracuse is up next, one of the best playmakers in this draft. He is a phenomenal passer. He knows how to get his teammates involved, and he sees passing lanes before they're open. I think he's not just a pass-first player, though. He can really score the ball. He's a 3-level scorer who can drive to the basket, he can make plays in the mid-range, and he can shoot the 3. Defensively, he is a cone, however. He provides nothing outside of the half court on offense, but he is such a good offensive player that he could easily still be worth a top 10 pick. Amir Richardson from Florida is a 6'11", undersized 5, I guess power forward hybrid as well. I think he's a really solid defender. He can pop out and shoot the 3. It's hard to find guys who are 6'11", who can knock it down like he does. A big reason why he's slated to go in the top 10. Little inconsistent, though, the 3-point shot, and he's not a very great scorer from inside the arc. But I really like what he provides defensively. He can protect the rim. He's got long arms, and he can switch onto the perimeter. He's an impressive athlete for his size, and I think his mobility is going to be a major asset for him on the defensive end of the floor. French big man Malik Craft is not a player we've talked about yet, but a late riser through the pre-draft process, so much so that he couldn't end up being a lottery pick. 7'1" with a 7'8" wingspan. He is a giant. He's a very good rim protector. There are a lot of flashes offensively. I think there's a ton of upside there. He's got some work to do, but I think his combination of playmaking flashes and three-point scoring flashes make him a really intriguing long-term project offensively. And when you factor in the fact that he's already a good defender, I think the sky really is the limit for Kraft. Neptune Hibbins Jr. is the modern prototype slashing wing. Kind of Anthony Edwards-esque, but certainly a little bit worse, you would think. Nonetheless, he is great at driving to the basket. He's a really solid playmaker as a 6'4" combo guard. He is very versatile defensively, especially along the perimeter. Does not have a three-point shot yet. That limits what he can do, obviously not just as a scorer, but he can't really space the floor for everybody else. He primarily will probably have to learn how to play on the ball until he develops the three-point shot. But if the outside shot ever comes for him, oh my goodness, he could be one of the 3 or 4 best players in this class, at minimum. While Hibbins has rode up boards throughout the year, Geno Hunt started the year as a top 10 pick. His stock has gone down a little bit, but probably will still end up in the lottery. A 6'6" point guard who I think has really good size for being a 1. He's a bigger guard who can play with and without the ball, so already versatility on offense I think is a big deal given the fact that he can really shoot the ball. Maybe the best outside shot in this class at just 18 years old. He's a solid playmaker, not a great defender, not a great athlete, not a great finisher, so I think the ceiling is a little bit low. But I think the floor is high because he is such a good three-point shooter and he is such a good shot maker right off the bat. But the rest of his game has a lot of questions. Malik Whiteside for Syracuse, a 4-year senior, averaged 20 points per game this year, an exciting shot maker in the mid-range, a phenomenal finisher, a really solid playmaker for somebody who's 6'9", 240 pounds, and a very good defender. He can guard multiple positions. He's really good on the perimeter. A little bit of a tweener, though, size-wise, and he's also 23 years old. So what really is his ceiling, given his age? I think he will be one of the 5 most impactful rookies in this class, though. Shadrach Williams from Gonzaga, 6'8", 230, 7-foot wingspan. He has elite size and length for today's game. I think he's a really, really good defender. He can guard just about every position. I think he's got the foot speed to match up with guards. I think he's got the size and strength to bang down low with the big boys. Offensively, there is some work to do, but I think he's a good enough finisher. I think he's a good enough mid-range shooter. I think the three-point shot could easily get better, and I think he's a really, really solid athlete. I don't think the C-plus grade really gives him justice. Not to mention, he's one of the smartest kids in this draft. His IQ, his feel for the game is top-notch. Yolo Fro has been playing in the Chinese Basketball Association for the Guangdong Tigers. Hailing for the United States, though, we got to see him last year in the FIBA Under-18 Nationals. He's an explosive athlete for somebody who's 6'11". I think the rest of his game is really raw, though. It's going to be a big jump in competition from the CBA to the NBA. I think it could be a little bit of an adjustment for him, but a talented player. Caden Zach from Wisconsin, a breakout star this year for the Badgers. First team All-Big Ten and a possible lottery selection after being a relative unknown going into the year. He's an impressive slasher, 6'5", 220. He's got good size. I think he's a solid defender, and he's a really good athlete. Close to a 40-inch vertical, and he doesn't really have many major weaknesses to his game. The three-point shot is okay. He can guard bigger guys at an okay level despite being shorter. I think the lack of weaknesses and the combination of athleticism he has leads to a really, really good player potentially down the line. AJ Goffis was not a top 100 recruit in this class. However, he averaged 18 points a game this year at Ohio State on 45% shooting from deep. He's got a flamethrower from beyond the arc. Outside of the jump shot, he doesn't really have a lot else to his game. He's not a great playmaker, not a great defender. He is a pretty good athlete, though, so I think there's a lot of room for him to improve. Likely limited to an off-ball role early on, but he's such a good shooter, he will provide a lot of off-ball value. O.J. Stackhouse at Syracuse, I thought for a while could be a top 10 pick. Had a really inconsistent year, but the flashes were certainly there. So much so that I still think there's certainly a world where he ends up going in the lottery. Solid shooter. He's a very fun player to watch in terms of the highlights he makes, but there are also a lot of lowlights. There's not much consistency whatsoever in any aspect of his game. He has some nights where he's on fire from deep and other nights where he goes 0 for 8. I think he's a good but not great defender. The athleticism, though, is top tier, and because of that, I will choose to believe in the upside, given that his combination of speed and size and lateral movement is rare for any NBA-level prospect. He is a freak show. Wisconsin sophomore Cooper Drysdale went from a kid who only played 8 minutes a game as a freshman to one of the most valuable players in the Big Ten. An elite shot blocker with impressive touch around the rim. He's got a really nice mid-range shot and an improving three-pointer. The defense and the rim protection is the calling card early on, but I think there's a lot of untapped potential for Drysdale on offense. Alfonso Alexa, a 4-year starter at Kansas, is up next. Nearly 20 points per game. Dynamic three-point shooter at 6'7", 185 pounds. There are some similarities to another Jayhawk, Ochai Agbaji. I don't think he's as good of a finisher as Ochai, but you look at the shooting, you look at the defense, you look at the athleticism, and I kind of think he is a taller Ochai Agbaji. Malachi Ngema from Gonzaga is up next. A big-time star for the Zags this year. National Player of the Year, to be specific, leading Gonzaga to their first ever national championship, where he won the Final Four MVP. Dominant post scorer. I think offensively is where you're going to get the most value from him early on. Defensively, he's not great, but he's not a liability either. I think the hope is that he eventually does develop an outside shot. He added a mid-ranger to his game this year. Now he's going to look to add a three-pointer. Let's move down the board a little bit. These could be candidates for our second first-rounder at number 32. Jalen Mercer and Nikisa Dragovic are pretty similar players to me, not so much in terms of their overall skill set. Mercer, I think, is more of an inconsistent shot maker. Dragovic, more of a spot-up three-point shooter. But both guys are solid wing options for us if they fall. Rakeem Miller from BYU, I really like him. It seems like NBA scouts are a little bit lower on him. They've soured on him a tiny bit, and I don't really know why. I think his ceiling is really high. 6'10", good defender, can shoot the ball. Wasn't the most consistent, 31% from deep, but it's easy to see the shot-making upside, and it's rare for somebody that big to be able to create his own shot off the dribble like Rakeem Miller does. Rizzo Shallow is an intriguing 7-footer who has risen up boards quickly this year. We recognize this last name, Emerick Salis, the son of Antoine. He obviously is French, but has decided to play at UCLA. I think his play style is very different than his dad's. Antoine was more of a combo guard, a microwave bench scorer. Salis is more of a table-setting point guard. I think he's a much better playmaker than his dad was. He's definitely not the shot maker, though, that Antoine was. One of the most dynamic shot makers in the NBA. I think Antoine Salis was picked either 22nd or 23rd. Emerick Salis is going to go right in that range. Noah Halliday is an interesting prospect because he quickly rose up boards throughout the year, but kind of struggled in the second half of the year, causing his stock to go down a little bit towards the end of the first round. I still believe he's one of the 2 or 3 best pure playmakers in this class. Someone who I think can potentially lead an NBA offense in the future with his passing ability. I don't think he's a liability as a scorer either. He can get to the hole, good mid-range scorer. Three-point shot isn't really there yet, but given the shot mechanics, the mid-range shot, and the three-throw shot, there's no reason to think he won't be a good outside shooter in the future. He's a good defender, but not a good perimeter defender. He's more of a post defender. He's kind of a point guard on offense, but an undersized power forward on defense. So he's kind of a tricky projection because of that, but he is an oddly good interior defender. If he gets better on the perimeter defensively, then I think that could be really exciting. Yuki Saito has also seen his stock go down this year, an inconsistent season at OTE for the Japanese big man, but he's still going to go in the first round. 6'11", with the offensive upside that he has is really hard to find. We saw him on the fadeaway earlier. Here he is on the pick and pop. Connects on the corner 3. Exciting shooter. I think the A- and A grades are a little generous. His three-point shooting efficiency was not great this year at OTE. He's not a very good defender, though. You would hope for someone who's 6'11", 250, he played better defense. But for now, I think he is a very, very, very poor man's Karl Anthony Towns with the outside shot. And you hope that the defense potentially gets better. Cedric Noel, one of the most fun players to watch in this class, playing overseas in France. A 6'2" exciting shot maker who handles the ball like a wizard. They call him the French Kyrie Irving. Good playmaker, good shot maker. Now, the shot itself is inconsistent, especially from deep, and I also wish he was more efficient around the basket. He knows how to give himself opportunities to score. He knows how to get himself open, but the shot just does not consistently go in yet. Albert Barcelo from Spain, he will be in the dunk contest, I think, next year. He's got bunnies. Simeon Lara, talented undersized scoring guard. DeMarcus Thompson from Oklahoma State, I think, is a good player. And then into the second round, we've got to find some gems. We do have an early second rounder, 6th overall. Some potential names to watch out for us. I like David Doolin from Northwestern. Exciting two-way stretch 4 who can really shoot it at 6'7". Juice Jones from Duke, I think, is an elite role player type. Think Draymond Green with him. Scrappy, does the little things, doesn't put up the big numbers. He can handle the ball, he can guard multiple positions, he's a good passer, and he can get to the cup. Juice Jones, to me, is just a winning basketball player. He knows how to make the small plays that impact the game. It's perplexing to me that he's projected to go in the second round, and I think some contender at the end of the first round is going to snag him up, and he's going to play big minutes for them as a rookie. Junior Ninasa from LSU is a high upside flyer who I think could end up really delivering on value for being a second round pick. Hailing from Japan, Ninasa has one of the highest ceilings of anybody in the second round. He's already a really impressive defensive prospect immediately. He can guard multiple positions, even if he isn't very consistent at it yet. Outside of his finishing ability, he doesn't have much yet offensively, though. He only averaged 6.5 points a game. He is not going to offer anything as a playmaker. He can't really shoot the ball. But I think the upside is really exciting with Ninasa. Australian big man Xander Creed is a late bloomer. He'll be 23 years old as a rookie, but I still like the upside. I think he's gotten a lot better over the last couple of years. This is a pogo stick athlete who is deadly in the pick and roll. Think John Collins offensively with a mix of Brandon Clark as well. I think he's a good rim protector, 6'11". He's taller than both Collins and Clark. I think a perfect team and player fit with Creed would be the Los Angeles Lakers. Get him in the pick and roll with Luka Doncic. I think he could end up being one of the best players in this class with that kind of fit. Amadeus Page Jr., really fun 3-level scorer with some defense. Kael Cesare from France is a raw two-way wing who I think is probably a couple years away from being a couple years away, but he can really guard defensively. He's a pretty good athlete, and his motor is relentless. 6'9", 220. He's got an NBA-level body immediately. It's just about developing the NBA skills. It's hard to find 19-year-olds with his size, weight, and wingspan combination. Now we're really looking for the deep cuts down the board. Traquan Randall from Maine is a talented big. I like Dean Ronald from southwestern Oklahoma State. He's a true glue guy. He does all the little things, but he is the toughest player on the floor. Damba Nantume Drame, we talked about him earlier in the year. Scouts have soured on him, largely because, well, he's not a very good basketball player, which is exactly what I said about him a couple of months ago. He can't really shoot it. He doesn't offer anything as a playmaker, so he's kind of the net negative in the half court offensively. Physically, he looks like a guy who can guard multiple positions, but he's not a very good defender. He's not a great rebounder. He's not a great athlete. So what does he do? Well, his feel for the game is really impressive. He does a lot of the little things. He makes a lot of smart plays, and his teammates and coaches describe him as a genius. They think he could become the president, or I guess the prime minister, whatever it is in France. They think he's that smart. If the rest of his game can translate because he's got the physical upside, then he could be really good. The last player whose tape we're going to dive into is Messiah Ritchie from Virginia Tech. Go Hokies. Last episode, he was getting some first-round love, even some lottery buzz. So why is he projected to go now at the end of the second round? Well, I think more teams have gotten their eyes on the film, and they see that he has a very long ways to go offensively. He cannot shoot the ball whatsoever. He is not going to offer anything as a playmaker. He's not a very good play finisher. He might be even worse than Nantumbe Drame on offense. Good perimeter defender, good athlete. I think there's some exciting upside, but I think the lottery hype with him was a little overblown by some highlight defensive plays and fast break dunks. Nonetheless, for the second round, I think taking a flyer on a guy like Masai Ujiri could be worth it. Down the board a little bit, Omari Ozignani, 7'4". He is a giant. Very raw, however. I like Trey Spice a lot. I think he should not go in the late second round. I think the league is sleeping on him. Amadou Abdoulaye, Breezy Turner, two more guys I like. Marcel Badou from France, I think is worthwhile as a late second round pick. Let's go through these mock drafts. Of course, we already have talked about that DeMarco Jefferson is the number 1 pick in all 3 of them. Hakeem Ujale going at number 2 before either Marquis Cannon or Lando Nazario would be a big surprise. Nazario, according to the Sporting News, falling at number 9. So maybe I'm just off base about where his stock is. They have his picking Traquan Randall from Maine at the end of the first round. And for whatever reason, they have his with the number 1 pick in the second round, which is wrong. We don't have that pick. But they would have his picking Jalen Mercer at 38. 2K, which I think their mock drafts are usually the most accurate, have Jefferson at 1, Cannon at 2, Nazario at 3. Not that many major surprises throughout the board. At number 32, they end up giving us Reginald Horace. We didn't talk about him, though, but another Australian prospect. There's a lot of those in this class. And then 38 would, again, be Traquan Randall. NBA.com, I think their mock drafts are always just bad. Really bad. DeMarco Jefferson still the number 1 pick. Ujale at number 2. Cannon at number 3. As for us at number 32, they have us selecting this time Jalen Mercer from Kentucky, who the mock draft seemed to really like when we last looked at them. And then Amadeus Page Jr. So adding a couple of talented shot makers to the backcourt would be our use of our other 2 picks. We got to add a new CFO and team doctor, so I hired Grant Cheney and David Jamison. That'll bring us to the NBA Draft Combine as we try to prepare who we're going to bring to the facility for workouts. In terms of the leaders of the Combine, the fastest sprint time went to a kid who's not even projected to be drafted. Despite that, though, this young man who had the biggest afro at the Combine stole the show, Jonathan Gill. In terms of actual draft prospects, Mercer, St. Pierre, Stackhouse, and St. Lise finished with fast sprint time. So did McCoy at 6'9". Neptune Hibbins, 44-inch vertical. Stackhouse also getting up to 44. Why did DeMarco Jefferson participate? He's 3 months off of the torn Achilles. I get he can kind of move around a little bit and work out a tiny bit, but why is he working out at the Combine? Is he just that much of a dog, or is he an idiot? I don't know. Food for thought with our number 1 pick. Geno Hunt performed well in the 3-point shooting drill. So did A.J. Gothis. Neither of those surprises. I think they might be the 2 best outside shooters in the draft. So we've got some decisions with the pre-draft workouts. Obviously, we're going to bring in Jefferson, Nazario, and Cannon. Duh. But we have, I think, 9 other invites to figure out. Where down the board do we look at in terms of those pre-draft invites? That'll wrap up the episode. Draft day, I'm hoping will be Wednesday. If not, it'll be probably Thursday, one of those 2. Of course, it will be a premiere like always. It's going to be a lot of fun. I hope to see all you guys there. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and if you are excited for the Rollers to have the number 1 pick in the draft. Peace out.